There is a serious question floating around right now. Are we quietly moving toward a potential standoff between the players and the league? Because the latest development just dropped. The Women's National Basketball Players Association has officially submitted a new counter-proposal to the Women's National Basketball Association, and the timing could not be more critical. The league is in a growth phase, visibility is rising, attention is higher than it has ever been. And now, right in the middle of that momentum, negotiations are tightening. This isn't just about numbers on paper. This is about the future structure of the league, revenue models, salary growth, long-term sustainability. Both sides are digging in, and while progress is being made on the surface, the real question is whether it's enough to actually close the gap, or if we're just watching two sides reposition without truly moving closer to a deal. So here's what just happened. The Players Union responded to the league's previous offer with what they're calling adjustments. Originally, they were pushing for 30% of gross revenue. Now that figure has come down to 27.5%. On paper, that sounds like movement. They also lowered their proposed year one salary cap from roughly $10.5 million down to about $9.5 million. Again, movement. But here's the issue. The league wasn't negotiating around 30% of gross revenue to begin with. Their structure is built around net revenue. That means expenses come off the top before percentages are calculated. So even though the union reduced its demands slightly, the core disagreement hasn't changed. One side wants a guaranteed slice of total revenue, the other wants a model based on what remains after operating costs. That's not a small difference. That's a foundational disagreement about financial structure. Now let's simplify the revenue fight because this is where most people get lost. Gross revenue means the total money the league brings in before expenses. Net revenue means what's left after paying for travel, marketing, arena costs, staff, and all operational expenses. The players prefer gross because it guarantees a fixed percentage of the full pie. The league prefers net because it protects them if costs rise or revenue fluctuates. From a business standpoint, net revenue models reduce risk. From a labor standpoint, gross revenue models offer stability and transparency. So when the union drops from 30% to 27.5% of gross revenue, it sounds like compromise. But if the league fundamentally rejects gross revenue as the base, that adjustment may not actually move negotiations forward in a meaningful way. The gap isn't just about the percentage, it's about what number the percentage is applied to. Then we get to the salary cap battle, and this is where the financial distance becomes clearer. The union's updated proposal puts the year one cap at about $9.5 million. The league's framework starts closer to $5.6 million, with gradual increases tied to revenue growth. That is still a several $million difference right out of the gate. The league argues that structured growth over time ensures sustainability. The union believes a higher starting point reflects the league's current momentum and revenue trajectory. There are also projections showing significant increases in maximum salaries over the life of the agreement under the league's model. But projections are future promises. The union seems to be focused on securing stronger guarantees now rather than relying solely on growth estimates. The tension here is between immediate elevation and gradual expansion, and depending on which philosophy you believe in, one side may look more realistic than the other. Housing might seem like a smaller issue, but it's symbolic. Teams have provided housing benefits since the league's early days. The union's proposal would continue housing in the early years of the agreement, but phase it out later for players on high-value, fully protected multi-year deals. In other words, max-level players would eventually be responsible for their own housing, while younger or lower-salaried players would still receive support. The league's proposal, however, centers housing primarily around rookies and minimum salary players for a limited number of seasons. This isn't just about apartments. It's about benefit structure and how compensation is distributed beyond base salary. For some players, housing support significantly affects take-home value. Adjusting it changes the overall financial package. So while housing may not headline negotiations, it reflects how both sides view long-term player support and cost management. Now we move into the financial projections, and this is where the debate intensifies. Reports suggest the league has projected that earlier versions of the union's proposal could lead to hundreds of millions in losses over the life of the agreement. The union disputes those projections, arguing that certain revenue sources, and including expansion-related income, may not have been calculated the same way. This creates a credibility battle. Whose math is more accurate? Whose projections are more realistic? In labor negotiations, financial modeling becomes a strategic tool. If one side believes the other's structure threatens long-term stability, they are unlikely to agree, regardless of public pressure. But if revenue growth continues upward, the players may feel justified in demanding a stronger share now. Ultimately, this becomes a negotiation not just about percentages, but about forecasting the future of the business. And we cannot ignore the broader context. The league's popularity has surged, media attention has increased, attendance numbers have climbed, new stars have brought fresh eyes to the product, including players like Caitlin Clark, who have undeniably amplified visibility. That growth changes leverage dynamics. When momentum is strong, players may feel it's the right moment to push for structural gains. At the same time, the league may argue that growth phases require stability and reinvestment rather than aggressive revenue guarantees. Timing matters in negotiations. This is a pivotal window for the sport. Disruption now could slow momentum, but locking in a deal that one side believes undervalues them could create long-term dissatisfaction. That's why this moment feels larger than a routine contract update. So where does this leave us? The union has moved slightly. The league has held firm on core principles. There is visible progress in numbers, but the philosophical divide remains intact. The key question is whether 27.5% of gross revenue represents meaningful compromise or simply repositioning. Negotiations like this often involve strategic posturing before a real breakthrough occurs. Both sides understand the stakes. A prolonged standoff would benefit no one, not the players, not ownership, and certainly not the fans. The coming weeks will likely determine whether this new proposal narrows the gap enough to spark serious momentum toward agreement. Until then, we're watching a high-level financial chess match unfold in real time, and the outcome will shape the league's economic future for years to come.